All right. Look, thanks very much for everyone's time. My name's Andrew Sparke. They call me the baby-faced chairman. Obviously, I'm 41. This is my third listed company, but we obviously have been exclusively in the resources space for some time. Many of you may have seen I ran a resources fund for 5 or 6 years, so we know this space very well. And importantly, over that period of time, I saw it was about 6,500 management teams and projects. So because of that, we really understand what works, what generates value for shareholders, and what strategies can really generate some outsized returns for shareholders. So with that, about 2.5 years ago, a little over now, almost 3 years ago, we purchased our flagship project, Mt Chalmers, listed on the ASX. And as you can see, we're quite a young and dynamic team. I'll show you the team shortly. But really, I think the point of difference here, and the one key thing I'd like you to take away from this presentation, is that we move. Okay, we hate watching the grass grow. We like to get things happening. And I'm pleased to say today we're just about to deliver our sixth resource update after 2.5 years. We've done a lot of drilling. We've bought a lot of the land around this mine site, which I'll take you through shortly. And we're just about to push out a Maiden Reserve Statement and a PFS, all within just over 2.5 years. So we're a young and dynamic team, but we really like to move things along for the benefit of our shareholders. All right. I won't dwell on this. I've seen a lot of people do the white copper thing. It's pretty straightforward though. I'll keep it quite simple. The energy transition requires a lot of copper. Okay, we all know that. There's a significant amount of use in electric vehicles, and it doesn't matter which analyst you talk to at the moment. They're all very bullish on copper. Okay, being candid, pre-production copper has been a tough space. In the last 2 years, and I think we all appreciate that. If you look at a lot of the share prices, they're all off, and so because of that, there is deep value in this space. So I'd really encourage you, go and have a look at the pre-production, copper stocks on the ASX. There aren't a lot of them, particularly in the development end where we are, and there is really, really deep value there. And I think obviously I've ran the fund, so I'm really heavily into the numbers, and to give you a sense of that, when we listed, the comps, or what we call comparables, we're trading at about $600 a ton of contained copper in resource. Okay, now if you look a lot across the board at the moment, a lot of those stocks are trading at sub $60 a ton. So you've seen a real destruction of value there in that space, and because of that, as I say, there's deep underlying value here. So this is a space, as an investor, I think is very worthwhile having a close look at. The other interesting point here is that Australia actually is a real leader we're obviously got the second largest amount of copper resources in the world. So a lot of people don't realise that we're obviously the sixth largest producer of copper globally, but a lot of that actually happens in Queensland. So copper really is a Queensland story, and so we knew that if we wanted to be in the copper space, we had to be in Queensland. Obviously in South Australia, you've got a very big copper deposit called Olympic Dam. If you strip out Olympic Dam, which really is an outlier, I think it's about 90% of copper production out of South Australia. You've really got to be in Queensland. 13 mines, lots of infrastructure up and down the coast, so it's a great place to find quality copper deposits. Okay, so our story is quite simple. We're really focused on the Rockhampton region. Okay, we see this as being a really new area. Obviously, Mount Isa has been, the stalwart in the copper business for a long time. We've got two projects there. Mt Chalmers is our flagship project, which is about 20 k's out of the regional town of Rockhampton. It's close to the coast, close to a lot of infrastructure. As you can see there's major, large gauge rail up and down the coast. You've got 8 flights in and out a day into Rocky. Major highways, and obviously Gladstone's the 4th largest port in the world by metals throughput. So, and why that's important and why I mentioned that today is that gives us a real cost advantage. Okay, so we don't need to go and build a lot of this infrastructure to bring these deposits into production. Okay, so we expect we'll be able to deliver this in a very cost-efficient way, and as you'll see throughout the presentation today, these are large projects, they're belt-scale projects, and there's lots and lots of upside. Late last year, we purchased a new project called the Devlin Creek project. It's on the western side of Rockhampton, about 90 kilometres away. And as you can see, there's three tenement packages there, and there's quite a high grade deposit up there called Sulphide City, which I'll talk to in a second. So this is a real regional play. It's a brand new area. These are district scale projects with an immense amount of upside, which I'll get to in a second. Okay, as I said, we are unashamedly younger, and we do like to move the needle. We like to get things happening. Okay, since listing only 2.5 years ago, we've been flying. All right, we've got 6 resource updates out the door. We're actually working on our 7th as we speak. This is growing, and this is growing quickly. All right, we're working on our Maiden Reserve Statement as we speak, and a PFS we expect to be out within a month and a half. So some really big catalysts on the horizon. But this is growing quickly at a time when, as I say, there's deep underlying value in this space because obviously it's been a really tough environment for the pre-production copper end. Okay, Mt Chalmers, as I mentioned, is our flagship project. This is a really exciting asset. Okay, it's shallow, it's flat lying. You can see if you look closely at that block model at the top, a lot of the grades right at the top, which is fantastic. Basically means you're into some of the highest cash flows early, pays back debt rather really quickly, and it's still open. So there's lots and lots of upside here. All right, we've got just under 12 million tonnes at Mt Chalmers, and it's about 1.2% copper equivalent. So this will be a large open pit, and we're just working through the numbers at the moment. It generates a lot of value. Okay. And importantly, when this PFS comes out, you're going to see a very strong economic, very strong financials for this particular project, largely because it's an open pit project. Okay, it's going to be very low on the cost curve, and as I said earlier, this is a historic mine, so there's lots of sunk capital here, which really gives us a cost advantage in terms of taking this forward. If you look closely, there's another deposit. If you look at the long section at the bottom there, it's called Woodshaft. We think there's potential for these two deposits to marry up. They are structurally controlled. We've obviously got to do a little bit more exploration there, but there's an immense amount of upside here at Mt Chalmers. Okay, the new project, Devlin Creek. All right, this one is again a copper dominant deposit, another VMS deposit, so high grade, 1.6% copper equivalent. It's got a small zinc byproduct, and as you can see there in the top graphic, there are 2 deposits here, Sulphide City and Scorpion. I expect these will be relatively shallow open pits that will go underground quite quickly due to the orientation. All right, so we plan to start drilling up here as soon as the wet season's finished in the coming months. We've got a big program planned, and it's all about trying to move this into the mine plan. Okay, so some really big catalysts that we've got on the horizon. Obviously, we're about to kick off the drilling season again. We've got this pre-feasibility study very advanced now. We're only sort of a month and a half away from delivering that. We expect that to be a very big catalyst for our story. And it might be worth talking to that a little because I did mention right at the start that most pre-production companies are generally valued on a comparable basis, where you get a certain amount of value per ton of copper in resource. Once we get down this development curve, for the first time, we can start to be valued as a percentage of our NPV. So, hypothetically, just not saying this is our NPV, but just using a hypothetical number. Let's say there's $500 million NPV. How these companies start to be valued when they get down the development curve is a percentage. So it might be 10% initially, moves to 20%, and potentially 30% once you're at DFS. So some strong catalysts here for a value re-rate on the back of some of these development studies. We're 13 million market cap today, to give you a sense. So we're very well priced, and you can see that as we're starting to be valued as a percentage of our NPV, you can see there's some real potential uplift there. So as I say, the PFS is only about a month and a half away. It's targeting about 1 million tonne per annum plant on site. There is growth potential there, and a significant amount of upside, which I'll get to in a second. Okay, in January last year, we took a bit of a punt, all right? So we actually flew a very large helicopter survey, and I must admit my board at the time were quite nervous about this. It cost us about $500,000 to go and fly this survey. As I said, it's a very large regional project. But we knew that these VMS deposits are known for clustering. Okay, so you see lots and lots of deposits typically, within a cluster. Okay, and so we had a strong hunch that there would be more of these if we started to, get out into the region and start to have a look at it. And lo and behold, we've now come up with 34 EM anomalies. Okay. Sometimes you need a bit of luck in this business, and the very first one we drilled last year, we obviously came up. So we're really lucky. We're on the cusp of making we think, potential to make a very big discovery here at Artillery Road. I'd encourage you to go back and have a look. Artillery Road is a big system. Being candid, we don't know quite what it means yet, but that's one of the first areas we'll get into to start drilling as soon as in the next month or so, once this weather starts to clear up. So an immense amount of upside here, lots of deposits to go and chase, with already a large resource inventory that's heading down that development path. So this is the elephant in the room, and I think it's important to talk about these stories, warts and all. It has been tough in pre-production copper. Okay, let's be candid. All the stocks have really struggled. It has been a tough 2 years, and QMines certainly hasn't avoided that. We have a very tight capital structure, and so that obviously means that when you do get some selling, it comes off. But the great thing here is that when it turns, and I think we all expect that copper will turn at some point, hopefully later this year, this has got the great architecture for success. Okay, so just over 200 million shares on issue, so it's very tightly held. I'm the largest shareholder. I've put a lot of my own money into the business. We've got a team here that's large shareholders that have bought a lot of our own stock. We really believe what we're doing. And so this stock has a great architecture that I think will swing around the other way quite quickly when that copper price moves. So why QMines? I sort of alluded to it at the start. There is, and I suppose coming back to, I remember saying my background was in the capital markets. There really is very few ways to play copper development on the ASX, okay? And so we think QMines represents a fantastic opportunity to get exposure to a high growth business, at a time when copper's, I expect is close to running, all right? We are a team that likes to move, okay? We're a young and dynamic management team. We hate watching the grass grow, as I said right at the start, but we want to move things along quickly for the benefit of our shareholders. We're large investors in our own business, and as I said, we've already got a very significant mining inventory there of about 15 million tonnes. We're rapidly moving that down the development path, but also we have a lot of exploration upside, which we'll start to get to throughout the year. So thanks very much for your time today. This is really one to have a close look at. It's called QMines. The ticker code is QML, and really appreciate your time. Thanks very much.